think the reason I'm bringing this up is I want everyone who's listening to this to always be willing to go deeper, always be willing to ask, okay, this is the story about how this quote unquote should be. What is the depth of this?
How we can, that transgender, that trauma that we bring down, but why am I thinking that? What is going on? I said, your subconscious mind came back to a moment when you were in your mother's womb and your mother had so much trauma that she passed it down from her grandmother to you, and then you're now taking on the pelvic pain and the back pain.
Is you can't do that. You have to be in this box or whatever that we kind of like get tossed on top of us, which is interesting.
It's almost like a freeing. I always say it's like having a big overcoat with lots of like big stones in there, and you're just letting them go one at a time.
Welcome to Mindfully Sovereign, the podcast that invites you to reclaim your feminine self-authority and unleash the abundance within. My name is Sapha, I am your host, and I'm here to help guide you past your limiting beliefs and into the heart of your unwavering and undeniable power. This podcast is all about reclaiming your feminine self-authority, learning the art of self-seduction, and awakening your inner goddess so that you can become an aligned match to your most abundant life yet. So grab a cup of tea, get cozy, and get ready to become mindfully sovereign.
All right. Well, happy Monday and welcome back, everyone, to Mindfully Sovereign. I am so excited for you to be with us today, and I have a special guest joining us. She's a wonderful soul, and I had the pleasure of meeting her through the Women's Thrive community. I was going to say pod, but like basically community. We're like a pod of orcas, but she's amazing, and I will let her introduce herself so that you can get to know her a little bit better, and we can get the conversation going. So, Nikki, if you want to say hello and say who you are, what you do.
Absolutely. Hi, Sapha. Great to be here. Thank you for having me. Hello, everybody. Morning, evening, whatever time of the day it is where you're tuning in from. I'm Nikki, and I live in southwest Turkey on the Aegean coast. As you can probably tell from my accent, I'm originally from Edinburgh, but I live in Turkey now permanently for about 2.5 years. And my life is just, I love it here because I host wellness retreats. I'm a mindset and therapeutic coach, meditation teacher, and I just love, my mission is just to help others to step into to come back to who they are. Just sort of, we tend to find that, I always say this to everyone, freedom is found when we let go of who we are supposed to be and embrace who we truly are. So that's just my mission and what drives me every day, why I get up, my purpose, and just to help other women to step into their value and see who they are. So yeah, that's me living in my little village in Turkey, about a few miles from the coast.
Oh, I love that so much. We are kindred spirits. I knew that the second we met and everything, but this is just like further confirmation. Do you know what? There were two things that you touched on that I thought were really interesting. But what you just said about really embodying who we are, right? Being so different from like the should. And I always say that I work with women who want to become the women they were meant to be. But when I say like meant, it's that. It's the inner knowing of what is already there as opposed to the supposed to, like all of the yolks of the shoots, and that you have to be doing this, you can't do that, you have to be in this box or whatever that we kind of like get tossed on top of us, which is interesting. And I love that you work on a meditative state and everything. So let's do this. Let's start with a place of awareness, which is what opens the door to the possibility of that realization of I am this person and I don't have to fulfill this role just by virtue of, and by virtue of being in my value. And a lot of that comes through that presence of mind, which is what we call meditation. So tell us a little bit about your work in regard that connection to self and what that gets to look like and especially since you do retreats, what that gets to feel like experientially.
Yeah, I always say to everyone, I have like this probably more than a three-pronged approach to all the work that I do. When people come to me that are maybe, let's say there's a lot of trauma going on in their life, things they need to heal. They may want to come and learn meditation, but I'm like, your nervous system is not quite ready for that yet. So we need to heal. We need to get to those roots. We need to pull up those roots. We need to, put a sort of like I try and sort of say it like this. I always say to everyone, it's like driving along and you've got winds, like mud on your windscreen. Okay, and that's like all the trauma, our past, our, oh my goodness, relationships,
Mm.
everything we've ever been through. That's all the mud on the windscreen.
Mhm.
And then when I do like a mind detox session with someone, it's like you're putting on the windscreen wipers and the fluid, and you're clearing away, you're purifying your perceptions. You can then come back into who you are and see things with more clarity and ease, and think, right, okay, this is what I need to do. Because we've all got these, I always say this, we're carrying around those bags called our past, and we're bringing them into our present. And it stops us living this life, this amazing life that we're all here to live. So I do it from like different approaches. So I have like let's heal the trauma, let's get the nervous system, calm it all down. And
Mhm.
then when people want to try and find out, who am I? What's my purpose? I don't know who I am. I've got no identity. And a lot of women who, especially older women whose children maybe flown the nest, gone off to university or college, I don't know who I am anymore. My husband's
Mhm.
at work. My kids have gone. I'm the wife, the mom, whatever it is, but who am I? And I ask them this question, who are you? I don't know. I'm like, what do you mean you don't know? Because they'll define it by saying, I'm a mother, I'm a wife.
Yeah.
But who are you? Who are you? What is your passion? What do you love to do? And they can't answer it. So I'm all about helping you to come back to what the best, definitely the awareness in the present moment, tuning back into who you are, and recognizing everything you have is deep within you at your core. It's been there since the day you were born. It's just
Yeah.
that life, circumstances, it all gets another layer on top of another layer, and it all gets piled up. So I just really help everyone to just let go of all that. It's almost like a freeing. I always say it's like having a big overcoat with lots of like big stones in there, and you're just letting them go one at a time, just letting it go. And then that freedom starts to kick in. And then you start to recognize, this is who I am. This is what I want. So I have a lot of different sort of approaches in my work. I hope that made sense.
No, it was beautiful, and I love this for so many different reasons. So let my ADD mind organize itself. So first, I love that, um, for the reason I brought this up and why I entered the conversation through the route of meditation is because I think that there are several misconceptions around what meditation does, how it works, the way it quote unquote should be. There's that should again. So, and the reason I think it's important is because in order to tap into presence, in order to get to know the self, and in my work, we call this the art of self-seduction. That is like my thing, right? So in order to tap into the world of self-seduction, in order to get to know yourself in such a way that you can fall in love with yourself and remember who you truly are, you want to be able to listen to the parts of the self that maybe have been most hidden, the ones that we've been ignoring the most, the ones that we've pushing off the longest, the ones that we haven't wanted to touch because it's too painful. So it's important for us to acknowledge it's not an immediacy. It's not as if you pull up a meditation cushion, you sit down, you close your eyes, you don't think of anything, your mind goes blank, and then all of a sudden you know who you are. And I think a lot of us believe that this is the way that it goes because maybe it's been taught a little bit that way. Maybe it's just misinformation from Hollywood. I don't know. It's just stuff that's kind of in the global subconscious. But what's important about that is this: what Nikki is talking about and what I always teach is it's important for you to enter into conversation with the self. So that, think about it that way. We could both sit here all day and be like, sit there, close your eyes, don't think of anything, focus on your breath all day for like, I don't know, a month. And it still would feel like you're stuck somewhere where you don't belong, where you don't know what it is that you want to do with your life, where you can't say or voice what it is that is in your heart. And after all of that, and this is one of the things that I see most often with people that I work with, is that it's after everything I've done, after all the books I've read, after all the things like the meditation, the yoga, and I still can't. And this is one of the reasons why. So if you're listening and if you're watching, let this be a soothing balm to your soul that you know that this isn't a should. The task isn't about that you have to do this in order to get this. You want to get to know who you are. You want to remember who you are. It doesn't have to be because you sat down and you breathe and you want to, not have to, but what you want to do is open the possibility for different things to happen, layers. First layer, can we look at the trauma? Like you said, can we look at what's in the way? Can we take the pebbles out of, I love that. Can we take the rocks out of like the coats, right? Can we peel back the layers? And then can we start asking the questions? Because then the who am I? That's a big question.
Absolutely. And when you're saying that, Sapha, about the meditation, oh my goodness, the amount of times I hear people say, I can't meditate. I can't stop my thoughts. It's for those weird tree hugging lot. It's not for me. I can't stop my mind. I'm like, your mind is not going to stop. It's going to come up with thoughts, emotions, sensations.
Yes.
But your task is to just simply be an observer. Watch the thoughts, watch the emotions, watch the sensations, and allow them to pass on through your awareness. Because meditation's not about, it's befriending who you are. It's coming back to who you are. It's nothing to do with, oh, I need to sit still and full pretzel lotus position and on my cushion and light a candle and It's not about that at all. And people don't get that. And I always remember once visiting my son in England, and I met one of his friends. This was a few years ago, and he went, "Oh, you're not what I expected." And I said, "Well, what did you expect?" He went, "Oh, when Kieran said you're a meditation teacher, I just thought you'd have like white robes on and like Malibus or something." And I'm like, "No." And there I am in this bar dancing away, So it's coming back to your true essence of who you already are. It's like you have a mind, you're aware of your mind, you're aware of your thoughts, but what's that that's aware of your thoughts? What's that that's aware of your emotions, your body? There's something bigger than that, and that is your conscious awareness. And yeah, it's like a misconception. I hear it all the time, oh, banging tambourines and hugging trees, and you have to sit in and that's how you meditate, and with crystals all over you, it's like, no.
Do you know what's funny about that too? Is that is, I just recently had another one of the Women Thrive women on the pod, and we were talking about the way that our brains and our minds and our beings love to learn from story. And so either creating stories or keeping stories or watching stories, this is how they like learn the best. And so what you just said is interesting, because when we think about the way in which the narrative that we've set up for people who are willing to get to know the self better has grown into this very specific permutation of like a caricature, really. Not that these are things that are wrong, not that it's bad to like wear white or use it. Listen, I've got crystals on my lap right now, so like there is a reason, right? And yeah, there you go, there you go. And a lot of us connect to things differently, but what is the reality of this? Because the reason why this is important for us too is, as healers, and maybe you've experienced this and we can talk about this a little bit further, but as healers in the entrepreneurial world, one of the most interesting yet sticky yet frustrating points is often explaining or sharing what it is that we do, because people have this very specific idea of the story of what it looks like to be woo. And if you do meditation, then that immediately means you smell like patchouli and like all of these things that are very like, so what it does, it disconnects from the essence. And what's interesting about that is what we are really in the way of doing is way of connecting to selfhood. And by way of connecting to selfhood, we each have our own unique way of showing up in this world. There are those of us who teach spiritually and maybe look, excuse me, a little bit gauzy or ethereal. There are some of us, myself included, who no, like we just look very much like this, and we curse and we talk about things that scare people and so on and so forth. So in the world of helping to share about your gifts, and in the world of, as an entrepreneur, talking to others about the gifts and about the work that you do, what has that looked like for you, and what has been the biggest, most healing takeaway from that? And what would you like people to maybe open their minds to in terms of like, let's change the story that we have around this and instead ask maybe this question?
I had a couple of years ago, I had, she won't mind me saying, Mandy, she came on one of my retreats. She's actually coming on another one this year, an older lady. And she was like, oh no, I don't think meditation's for me. And I don't think all that stuff. Maybe I'll do a little bit of the trauma work that you're going to do. And I think I'm actually all right. I think I'll just be fine. It was more like a bit of a holiday I really wanted. Oh my goodness. That woman, the transformation from day one to the end of the week, she embraced the meditation, all the work that I was showing her, because I literally set little exercises. And I went, every time you come up with an emotion, every time I want you to sit with it, sit with that memory, write it out. And we have like a ceremony on the last night, and we get rid of the
Mm-hmm.
past. It's the past. We're not bringing it and taking it into the future. And oh my goodness, like she did a testimonial. She went, I have laughed, I have cried, because she genuinely didn't know what to expect, because
Yeah.
she sort of went into the depths of herself that she didn't even know was possible, because she just sort of, her definition of herself was, I'm a teacher, I'm a mother,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a sister, I'm a friend. Yeah, but who are you truly at your core? And she started to come out of herself and out of her shell. And oh my goodness, truly. And even I remember on the boat trip, we went on this beautiful boat trip, she was there and she was having a bit of a Turkish dance and everything. I was like, wow, because her inhibitions were going. She was just truly alive, being who she already is. It was just that she was buried. Always says, you're buried under all the thoughts. It's all the soil and thinking. You're under all those thoughts and thinking all the time. Just let it go. And for me, it's seeing people being willing and vulnerable and courageous to just allow it all to just go, and really step into the vulnerability and the true self. And that's a beautiful thing to witness. That's just like it lights me up just to, yeah, it's just a pleasure. It's just it's very humbling as well, to witness that and just see that, oh my goodness, that person genuinely didn't know who they were. And now they're like, after 60 years or something, they're like, wow, and they're feeling so empowered, and they've got all this like drive to move forward. And yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing, and that's beautiful. So what I'm hearing, the invitation is for people to be open to witnessing themselves. Don't worry so much about like, oh, this is what the healer should look like. Don't worry about like, oh, this is what gurus get to like, put all of that away for a second. And like I always say, crown yourself sovereign of your story. And from that place of sovereignty, take a look, is this a story that you can kind of relate to? Is this something that you can use to heal yourself? Is it something that you can use to open the door to something? And something very interesting that I always marvel at. It's the way in which, especially women, we take on these roles and we make them rock hard. Like we just make them so solid. And we believe that they are the only thing in this world that exists as truth about us. And yet they are so far removed from who we truly are at our core. And it's challenging to put them down. Like if I usually, when I work with women, especially if I know that they have kids, one of the things that I usually get the most pushback on is I will say, you have to love yourself more than you love your kids. And it's always like, no, how dare you? My children come first. And I get it. I totally understand. But once that starts to sink in, once it's like, hey, if I don't know myself, if I don't care for myself, if I don't acknowledge my import in this world and fulfill my needs and my desires and care for myself, how am I going to be able to do that and facilitate that for my children, for my spouse, for the people in my life? It starts to change the dynamic. And very interesting that it's we define by the wording teacher, sister, lover, all of these things. And then when you whittle it all down, what's left is the essence of who we truly are at our core. And it completely connects, at least in my point of view, and we can talk about this a little bit. I would love to hear what you have to think or say about this. Is in my world, this connects to one of the deepest wounds of the divine feminine, which has to do with like that mother wound. And the reason that connects there is because that identifier came from an external point of validation. If I do good for my mother, I will get the gold star. If I do good, I will get called the good girl. And what then starts to happen later on in life, and one thing I've been thinking about a lot lately, by the way, I have no scientific proof of this. This hasn't been researched. I'm just saying this is my personal observation as of entering perimenopause and being around more perimenopausal and menopausal women, is that one of the things that I have learned is that in this cycle of life, in this beautiful integration of the crone, right? As we like embodied essence of the crone, a lot of women suffer from frozen shoulder. And my thought is, isn't it interesting? Because we're the ones that are always putting the weight of the world on our shoulders. We're the ones that are always taking on everyone's things onto our backs and trying to carry them. So I just, yeah, just food for thought there.
Do you know, as you were saying that, Safa, instantly, oh my goodness, a memory just popped up there, and there's a couple of things. I had a client, and she was presenting with back pain, and she kept saying, "Oh, I don't know what you're doing to me." I said, "What's the matter?" And she went, "Oh, it's moving." She goes, "Oh my goodness, it's in my womb. It's in my ovaries. The pain, it's in my ovaries." And I said, "Tell me more about this." She went, "Oh my goodness, I'm in the womb. I'm in my mother's womb." And she was
Mm.
taking on all the trauma and listening to everything that was going on in the relationship with her father and her mother at the time. And it was just, as you were just saying, it just reminded me of how we can, that transgender, that trauma that we bring down. But why am I thinking that? What is going on? I said, your subconscious mind came back to a moment when you were in your mother's womb, and your mother had so much trauma that she passed it down from her grandmother to her to you, and then you're now taking on the pelvic pain and the back pain. So that
Mm.
was really interesting. And what you just said there, Safa, oh my goodness, it's just like, I think as you get older, I'm postmenopausal now, so women of a certain age, oh my goodness. When I think back to like my grandmother and my mother, oh my goodness, it's the I was brought up in a strict Catholic household,
Mm.
and you didn't say boo to a goose sort of thing, and you went by everything that you were told and everything else. And as you get older, you start to make your own decisions and you step away from I'm not saying it's for everyone, but I stepped away from church and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And decided to have my own thoughts, have my own choice, make my own decisions. And what I could see from what was getting passed down to me through my mother, which she got from her mother, fear. Oh my goodness, the fear that was in those women, not being allowed to be who they were.
Yes.
They were literally just being, no, you've got to be a good wife, got to be a good mother, all this sort of thing. And it was like, is this life? Is this, and don't get me wrong, nothing wrong with being a wife and a mother, but that was it. It's like, this is your life. This is sort of what you do. And I went, what? Oh my goodness. And then I
Hmm.
think out of everyone in my family, I was always like the black sheep one of the family anyway. You're the bit of the woo-woo,
Same.
the odd one, the odd one. Here she goes. And I was like, no, who said that? Who said that we have to conform and be a certain way? And, you know, men and women, we have our minds, we have our own minds, we have our own thoughts, our own morals, our own values. But for a lot of women, it gets passed down that, that's your role in life. You're just a mother and a wife. And I was like, what? No, I'm not doing that. I'm going to rebel. So I
Hmm.
was a rebellious one. But I don't know if I made sense there. It's just what came out.
No, yeah, it's perfect. It's true. That goes all there's so many wounds of the feminine, right? You've got the mother wound, the sister wound, the good girl wound, the slut wound, the witch wound. And they all get activated around this because at the end of the day, what one of the threads of commonality that exists between them is this that your identity has been basically used as a punching bag, and that at the end of the day, what is the mandate out of all of them is that there has to be compliance, there has to be silence, there has to be stand there and look pretty and don't say anything. There's all of these like caged up chains and things that have been weaponized against us for so long. It makes perfect sense. And it's reflective, like I said, it's to me interesting to note, women get frozen shoulder. Like it's not as if like men get, to their 50s and all of a sudden frozen shoulder, but women across the board, perimenopause and menopause, they'll go into that stage and it's like what gives, what is this thing that happens, and the connection between physical, spiritual, mental is always there. We're all part of this unit, and when everything reflects everything else, it makes sense that the ancestral wounds or the very global subconscious wounds that we've been carrying for so long will present sometimes in physical ways. So I think it's just like so interesting to me. And going back to this point of like self reclaiming, self validating, self understanding, that listen, a lot of times we don't know who we are because we've been told not to think about it. We've been told thinking about who we are is selfish. We've been told that believing we are something amazing is, head in the clouds kind of thing. We've been told that being or understanding the being of the self is not appropriate. Everyone else has to come before you. So why are you wasting your time thinking about who you are when you got to worry about who you're going to be taking care of next? And it's been also set aside. It's not something we talk about. We talk about, one of my biggest, it's not a gripe, but one of my biggest points of awareness with people is that we always focus, or not always, but when we were growing up, the focus was happy ever after. Get that one person and get them to rescue you, get to fall in love with them. You're going to be the princess being rescued by, knight in shining armor. That was the conversations we had. Rarely, if ever, did we have conversations about selfhood. Rarely, if ever, did we have conversations about friendships. Rarely, if ever, did we have conversations about what the cycles of life are like outside of like, well, when you get your period, you're able to get pregnant and blah, blah. So we've been so disconnected from selfhood that it's no wonder that by the time we've lived our lives, and we've given so much of ourselves to the identity of the only thing that says that I am worthy is that I provide for my family, can take care of my children, can be a good, efficient worker, can make enough money. There are so many things that could be that we completely lose track and sight of who we are and our own worth and our own value, like anchored into reality.
I've got a friend who she's in her early 40s now, and she's had it all for the last 20 years. She hasn't got any children. She doesn't want children, but she's always had to defend herself because people have said, "But you're a woman. Why don't you want children? But you've
Yeah.
got a womb. This is what women are here to do. You're meant to procreate." And she just don't want children. Why can't you just accept this? It's my body, my choice, what I want to do with my body, whether I grow a baby in there or not. Why can't any? And even now, she's still like people, oh, have you got any children or anything? No. Oh, what a shame. Could you not have any? And she's like, no, I didn't want any. I didn't want any. And she says it just like she's tearing her hair out, but she's got to the point now she just lets it go because, like you say, it's that societal pressure of you've got a womb, so you must hold a baby in there. That's your choice. It's your body. What you get to do with your body is your choice, no one else's. And she constantly had this pressure. And I know a lot of women that may not want to have a baby in their relationship or their marriage, but they sort of just go along with it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's almost like their body doesn't belong to them anymore because they're going along with what someone else wants. So I'm not saying, I just wanted to put that out there. Just when you were talking there, just something that came to me, and I was like, it's really important that women take ownership of their bodies.
Yes.
And and decide what they want to do with their bodies, how they want to dress, how they want to look, how they want to speak. Not being told by anyone else how to do. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and it's the subject of the podcast. It's the subject of the work of my life, which is basically personal sovereignty. The more you recognize that, again, you are that main character, you get to choose. Like it's in your hands. The choosing of what this life gets to be is in your hands. The choosing of who you are is in your hands. And it goes back to that personal sovereignty. You are the one who's at the helm. No one gets to come around and tell you what to do, especially with your stuff, like your body, your mind, your thoughts. But we've gotten so used to that. That's the way that things should be. That's the way that things are, and it's everything. I myself, and it's so funny when I think back at it, but I myself found myself stuck in a really toxic relationship and getting married when I was very young. And I probably shouldn't have, because I thought that was like, this is what is the thing that I need to be doing in order to fulfill the good girl role that I'm supposed to be exacting in this world. And that's the only thing that gives me some sort of value in this place. Meanwhile, I was miserable for like 12 years before I finally got divorced. But it's like, you're right. Like the more we recognize the places where the narrative has become one of enslavement, because make no mistake about it, if you feel like you don't know who you are, there's some semblance of something enslaving you down. And it's tying you down, and it's destroying your soul, and it's tearing you to pieces. And when the conversation has come from this space of societal, like, no, you have to do this because of this. And like you said, you have a womb, therefore, thereby you have to give birth. Like things like those, when the conversation moves in that realm and it's set to not just trick but manipulate and shame and guilt you into submission, then it's basically enslavement. And that's the thing that we're not here for that. We're such powerful creatures.
It's when you said that, Sapha, the shame and the guilt, the amount of toxic shame. I had my son very young. And like I said, being brought up as a Catholic, and I was told he had to be baptized. Like I said, I was told that he had to be baptized. And I remember sitting in the whatever you call it in the church, and the vicar or priest or whatever was saying, I'm not going to baptize your son because it's like a wedlock, and and the father's a different religion, and it was all the stuff was getting told. What? It was like, what? Someone else was trying to make the decisions again, taking that responsibility away from, if that is what I wanted, they were making the decisions on my behalf. And it's and then that's where the toxic shame comes in. You're meant to feel that, oh, you're so, the child out of wedlock and young, and shame on you, and the whole church and the whole family, and you carry around, and I did for years, you carry around this toxic shame that you're a bad person or something, and all from what one person has said to you, or from what an establishment or whatever you want to, has done. So yeah, it is that time to oh my God, just step into your truth and own your truth, own that vulnerability. I mean, I was just far too young to speak up and speak up for myself. So and I think a lot of women are, no matter what age they are, and they carry around this toxic shame for years and years and years. So it's time to always say this, time to throw off the masks, time to just get, like, not naked, but you know what I mean, just like lay it bare and go, look, this is me. You either like Marmite, I don't know if you know what Marmite is. It's like
I know what it is. I've never actually eaten it, but I do.
You can either it's an acquired taste. So it's like you either like me or you don't. But you know what? It's the fact that I love myself. I have respect for myself. And I'm okay with that because I live by my morals and my values. And if you don't like that, then there's the door.
Yeah, and how important that is. And yet how many feathers it tends to ruffle, because again, people are used to, nope, I have to comply. If I do that, that makes me a bad person. Like if I have my own thoughts, if I have my own needs. Gosh, I just did. So last year, 2024, I was doing these transmissions on Instagram. I've got like a little subgroup there, and I was talking specifically about desire. And it's so funny to me that this is one of those things that has become so taboo, yet not only to the feminine heart and to the feminine energy is it so crucial, because creation comes from that desire. And so much inspiration comes from that desire. But not only have we been shamed into thinking that any kind of desire is bad, now it's been turned into this narrative where if you want something, you're needy. If you want affection, you're needy. If you want to be respected, you're needy. If you want to be listened to, you know what I mean? It's so the way that, again, always observe what the narrative is, not what you want to make it be, but what is it? If you see it as something that is being utilized to shame you into a place where you belong, be very mindful of that, because that's a trap, that's a cage, and we don't belong in cages. We belong free. And I'm fine. Actually love that you said naked, because we do belong naked. If it was up to me, we'd all be naked howling at the moon every night.
Let's just walk around naked. In the summer here, I tend to, not everyone needs to know this, where we are. We're in the sort of middle of a forest, and we've got a swimming pool and everything. And when we first had the house built, I remember my partner banging on the patio going, what are you doing? I went, I'm so hot. So I was naked in the pool, got out, sort of sat on this beanbag thing, and I was just sitting drying off like this, and he went, oh my God, there's people over there. I went, where? We're in the middle of nowhere. It was just and I remember going like this, oh hello. But I was just I was free, I was liberated, I was just enjoying myself. And I thought, well, I have to actually cover up now, because obviously it was people were walking past, but I didn't know there was anyone there. But yeah, imagine if we all walked about, we walked about in our natural who we are,
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And that's what it is. Walked around in the who we are. Say, like, who are you? Not the mask. And no, listen, the thing is, I think we also, I love to have nuanced conversations around this. I'm not saying like the masks are evil or it's a bad thing or whatever. It's just like this game that the ego likes to play because it wants to keep you safe. Like, it's the same reason why it creates stories. And it's the same reason it likes to box things up and kind of keep them nice and neat for you, is because it believes, again, there's a little psychological humor for you. If you get it, you get it. If you don't, I can't explain it. But it believes that by doing these things, you're going to stay safe, thereby also saying, you know what, showing it, and it's not untrue, showing everyone who you are all the time is a risk. This is true. And so this is where we also get to be very wise. So we get to be free and wise at the same time. We get to say, I will show up in my true self and my vulnerability. And I'm also going to be watchful and mindful and understand that not everyone gets access to every part of me. Not everyone deserves this vulnerability. Not everyone gets to see this truth. And I get to choose. It's the choosing that makes the biggest difference, because it's true. Masks actually do serve a purpose, and not everyone in this world should, and now I'm using that for the positive, be in your space or see you entirely, because not everyone in this world is for you. And some people in this world will have different ways of thinking. Maybe it's not like an ill intention, but it's the way that their brains are structured, blah, blah, that could be harmful to you, is what I'm saying. So what we do is we learn to play this game once again, not to listeners are like, we know, but I mean, that's the name of the show. But we get to play this game of mindful sovereignty, right? We get to be the ones that are choosing. I always tell people that it's trust, right? Trust isn't earned, it's granted. So you can do all of these things to prove to me that you are a trustworthy person. But at the end of the day, guess what? The decision is mine. And the granting is in my hands. And the reason why that's an important distinction, it seems like, but it's the same thing. The reason that's an important distinction is because it's in my hands to choose. To what degree, at what capacity. It empowers me to know that it is up to me. It's not that if you bend over backwards, then I get to trust you. It's that I'm watching and we get to do things like side by side. And in that realm, I'm choosing based of my own understanding and my own perception what opens the door and when the mask comes down and where and why and how. And that actually comes from selfhood. It comes from who you are at your core. So your true you doesn't just go, oh, well, they gave me a cookie. Therefore, they're nice. And I'm now going to tell them everything about me. And I'm going to give them unfettered access to every part of who I am. And they're going to get to touch everything about me. And they're going to get to blow my boundaries. No, like, your true you doesn't actually play by those games. Your true you is going to watch and be like, okay, one step at a time, one breath at a time, one moment at a time, little by little. We watch, we play, we collaborate.
It's as you were describing that, Sapha, to me, it just reminded me of like that trust thing. It's almost like wearing like a dressing gown or some sort of like, dress, and you're just lifting one shoulder at a time. This is I'm going to just trust you just a little bit.
I like
I don't know
that.
you. I don't know you that well. I don't know who you are. You can give me that cookie. You can feed me all this amazing information and try and befriend me. But here, this is how I'm going to show you how I start to trust you. There's just a little bit. There's just a little bit of the real me. It's like that, isn't it? And it's like, if you really want to know the real me, then if you're trustworthy and you'll hang around, you'll stick around. Because it's that thing of, oh my goodness, learning to trust people could be so difficult.
Mhm.
It's, what's that saying? It's a sheep in wolf's clothing or something.
Uh-huh.
It's like this, isn't it? And it's like you just never quite know. I'm very good. And we get to the stage, don't we, at this time in our lives? It's like you get to be intuitive. You get to see. I see through people. It's that smoke and mirrors. And they come across this, and I'm like, really, really. So I'm going to be me regardless. But like you just say, there's a time and a place for a mask. So I might just be showing you a little bit of that shoulder. And then because I am not really 100% trusting you right now.
But I love that, because that is so in the realm of the feminine. It's so sensuous. It's so like, it's a seduction. It's a little flirty. It's like, okay, I'm gonna show you a little bit. Let's see. What does this lead to? And then the ability to pull that shawl back, if you need like gown back, like, oh no, never mind. That was not where it was going. Let's not do this. But yeah, it's just such a beautiful thing. Okay, I have a question for you. Like just in the time that you've spent with women, remembering who they are and everything, and asking these really difficult questions because they are difficult, but you know what? They're worth it. Um, what usually do you feel is the biggest outside of what we've already talked about in terms of like, no, my identity is that my children, my identity is that, I'm a mom or whatever. Outside of that, what is usually one of the biggest sticking points for people to reconnect with and find themselves as like who they actually are at their core?
I think it's trusting themselves. We're back to trust again. It's trusting their intuition because they'll listen to the voice, the ego. The ego mind is the worrier, and the heart is the warrior. So
Yes.
it's getting them to step out of that ego mind that's going to come in and give you all the stories of you're not worthy, you're not good enough, you can't do this. But then you need to step into the warrior, the heart. And I think the hardest part is for women to see that, oh my goodness, yeah, it's like that fierceness, this heart, there's a softness in the heart, but there's this fierceness, and it's like owning who I am and not listening to this voice up here that'll try and talk you out of or try and show you something different. And it's almost like batting it away, going, oh, get off, go away. I know what you're doing. It's just a story, but I know who I am,
Hmm.
and it's really is just that intuition in your heart. And like I say, coming back and being the warrior, tuning into your heart, being a warrior, not the worrier. That just came,
Yeah.
I don't know where that came from, but yeah, just intuitively,
Oh,
yeah.
it came from the right place. I loved it. And it's so funny because so often in our society, we actually are told the opposite. Like we're told not to feel. Your heart is the liar. Your heart is the one that's going to get you in trouble. Your heart is the one that is in the wrong. Your logic, your mind is the only thing you can trust. And it's like, mm, first of all, they both exist within me and they both get to play this beautiful role. And then also, without my heart, there's no life. Without that pumping, there's no thinking. So it's like we just know, like start giving import to your essence, to your soul, to your breath, to your mind, to your feeling, to your feeling it's one of those like feel your feelings and then sense your intuition is what I always tell people. It's like that sense is important. And you want to give permission to your entirety, right? To exist. Your feelings are there to guide you. They're not there to be evil or to whatever. They're not there to take over either. And so we want to find that balance. And that balance resides in that personal sovereignty, in the understanding that I can allow my feelings to have a voice and not to let them take over me. I can allow myself to express vulnerability and not give unfettered access to everybody. I can allow myself to live freely and truly and lovingly and not over pour or over give of myself to the point where I'm depleted. We can do this, and I always live in the world of yes and. As a priestess, that's one of the things that is just like our tenant, the world of yes and. Like yes and this, and it builds up into itself. So, oh my gosh, Nikki, I could stay here with you all morning, probably all night. We actually probably should do that one day, just and talk and talk and talk. But we need to probably start wrapping things up. So, any like final things that you want to touch on before we get into like where people can find you and the final question of the show and everything? Anything, any finishing touches that you want to add?
I was just going to say, trust your inner sat nav. Let it guide you. Trust your inner sat nav. It knows the answer. Trust your heart. Tune into your heart every single time. It will have the answers. Your intuition, it knows. We all have the answers. It's just, that key to unlocking them. It's there. It's there. You just need to tune in and listen. I think people they listen, but they don't really listen. Really tune in and listen to your body. What is it saying? What message is it giving you? And always come back to your values, your morals and your values. And do you know what? You won't go wrong. Stick
Mhm.
to who you are. Believe in your morals and who you are, your morals and values. And yeah, I'll just leave it at that.
I love that so much. And it feeds right into the question that I always like to ask my guests. It's what, to your opinion, like in your world, what does it take or how can you remain mindfully sovereign in your life?
Coming back to the same thing, believing
Mhm.
and trusting in who I am, regardless of what other people think, regardless of the judgments, because people are going to judge you whether you like it or not. We're human, we do judge people,
Mhm.
but whether people judge you or not, it's coming back to your true essence of who you are and not wavering from that. Don't
Yes.
waver from whether you're going to I've lost people along the way over the years, this journey that you're on, and that's absolutely fine. People come into your life, they're there for a reason. You take many lessons from it, but never ever waver from, who you are. Come back
Mhm.
to, like, I always stick to, who I am. This is it. Come back to your essence of who you are. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's perfect. All right, Nikki. So now just let us know where everybody can find you, where they can connect with you.
I'm on all social media platforms, just under my name, Nikki Hillhouse, and my website is simply nikkihillhouse.com. You can find me
Amazing.
there. Yeah,
Yeah, and or I'll go on retreat with you.
absolutely. I've got one coming up in October. Yeah,
Oh, well, there you go. Amazing. Yeah, definitely check Nikki out. Thank you so much for spending this morning with me. I appreciate it. It's always so good to see you.
you're welcome. Lovely. Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.